Hello, I'm Mike, this is Will, we are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
I'm bringing you issue 62 of Warhammer 40k Conquest today, and before we head into the issue, as always, if you want to skip straight to the battle report, there'll be a time code in the description. And in this issue we got a sprue for a set of Galvanic Servohaulers, the first of two. With this sprue you can build the tractor unit and the lifter unit, as you can see on screen now. Heading into the issue now, first up we have some backstory on the Crimson Fists chapter, one of the successor chapters to the Imperial Fists. And here you can see recreating the artwork from the Rogue Trader manual, the very first edition of Warhammer 40,000, essentially. And on the next page there's some backstory on Alexis Pollux, the first chapter master, and what they're getting up to in present day. And then we have some successor chapters of the White Scars chapter. So 4 here and 4 there. Don't know how well it will show up on screen, but the print quality seems to be a lot worse on this page. Next up we have some backstory, background on Vanguard veterans, the sort of elite jump pack melee infantry of the Space Marines. Here they are fighting the Tau in Warzone Damocles, and there are some painted examples of them there. And then some backstory on the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's personal bodyguard and the Emperor's right hand, who up until the present times spent most of their time defending the Holy Palace on Terra. But after Rabute Guilliman was revived, he had a chat with their leader, and they mutually agreed to get out more, and now the Adeptus Custodes actually actively fight the enemies of the Imperium. And also in this picture here you can see some of the Sisters of Silence, the Emperor's left hand, who are all anti-psyker units. And then here we have a showcase of Adeptus Custodes models, and probably a full army there in the top picture. It's quite a small army, very good for people who like gold as well. And now we have our build guide for the Galvanic Servohaulers, and as it notes a little bit here, some of the pieces are left over for the extra thing we're going to be building in a later issue. You can mix and match the arms and that sort of thing, and the little antenna arrays, but it does suggest to build them in the same way as they do here, just so it's easy to follow the painting guide. I will also suggest as well, before you paint it, to keep the tracks separate and paint them separately, because there's all the sort of engine parts, especially in the tractor, it'd be very hard to get to if you glue the tracks on. And the painting guide, again, is really simple. It's mostly red, hull and silver. Completed examples there with also the fire extinguisher and the little toolbox that come with the sprue. But with that over, we'll head into our mission for this issue.
So before we get on to our mission, we have some rules for our new Galvanic Servohaulers, which, as you can see on the map there, it shows where they're placed, exactly where you'd expect. And the rules for them are that they provide cover for it's slightly confusing because they get their words a bit muddled here, but essentially a unit that is shot at, that is Servohauler is closer to the shooting model than it is the target, and the target unit is partially obscured by the Servohauler, then it gains cover, provided all the models from the unit that's being shot are within 3 inches of said Servohauler. That sounds like another slightly baffling variation of the cover rules that we have for the different terrain pieces, then you're right, but fortunately there are some examples. So this one here is obvious, the 2 Plague Marines are within 3 inches of the Servohauler and it's in the way. But here it does clarify that in the case of the Poxwalkers on the left there, even though one of the Poxwalkers is completely in view, the unit still gets cover because it's Servohauler. I don't know, it doesn't really explain why, but
it's got an extendy arm that gets in the way, I guess.
Yeah, anyway. Now over here we actually have a map of the planet where we can actually find out where our new city Jorgengast is. It's all the way over here. It's actually probably closer to Barakius than it is to Kalon, which is over there. But we're not there today. We're all the way down here in somewhere called Ironfall, which is one of the last remaining Imperial bastions apparently on the planet. So there's an evacuation going on and refugees are trying to escape. The Death Guard have set up barricades on the main routes that the refugees are trying to use to escape, and somehow the Ultramarines here, but the Silver Templars in our case, all their forces are occupied and there's a barricade they need to break down, so they've gone to Ironfall to try and steal some industrial machinery to knock the barricade down. So to that end, the mission's named Hauler Heist, and there's the 2 Galvanic Servohaulers on the battle mat, which are the 2 objectives. And then they're controlled as the normal way, having more models within 3 inches of it than your opponent. Although there is a little gimmick, if a player controls a Galvanic Servohauler, then they may move it 6 inches in any direction at the start of their movement phase, so movable objectives. And then the Death Guard deploy in the centre, as you can see there on the kind of platformy bit, and the Space Marines move on from either of the 2 short board edges at the start of their turn. And the Death Guard deploy first, the Space Marines go first, although they can deploy their scouts using concealed positions before their first movement phase, if they wish. Then there's victory points for the first blood, eliminating the enemy unit first. Slay the Warlord, and then the victory point for each objective controlled. 5 battle rounds as usual. 3 command points as usual. You can see we've got some smaller armies here because we're only using the 1 battle match today. But with that, we'll have a look at the armies and show you the Death Guard deployment, and then get on to the first game turn. And here we have our Space Marine forces. So we've got the Primaris Captain at the front, 3 aggressors, 5 intercessors, and 5 scouts with bolt guns and the heavy bolter.
Yeah, and obviously the captain will be my warlord, and I'll give him Storm of Fire.
And here are our Death Guard forces. We've got Lord Gangrus out the front, 7 Plague Marines, champion with Plasma Gun and Power Fist, and 2 Blight Launchers, 10 Cultists, and 12 Poxwalkers. And obviously the Lord of Contagion will be my warlord, and he will have Tainted Regeneration as his warlord trait. Now you can see there I completed my deployment. Lord Gangrus has actually started on board because the Space Marines get to go first. They move on from both edges, and they might be able to actually make it so he can't really deploy very far away anyway. And if I do this, I can actually move him on my first turn, so he might actually be able to get closer than he would be otherwise. Then we've got the Cultists on one side, the Poxwalkers on the other side of the meat shield, and Plague Marines in the middle. Some of them on top of the box, and some down there like that. Then Space Marines deployment as such is you can use the Scouts conceal position. You decide to put them over here. So they do actually technically control this objective already over here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else moves onto the board in the Space Marines' first turn, which we're going to go on to straight away. So it'll be Space Marines turn 1.
So on this side of the battlefield, the intercessor is just going to move on normally to take position behind the ammo boxes. And I also moved the Servohauler actually, I moved it slightly.
Oh yeah, at the start of your turn you can do that.
Yep.
So you did.
And I brought the captain on next to the scouts, and the aggressors are just going to move on normally down there. So it's on to the shooting phase.
Yep.
So I'll start with the aggressors. They're going to fire all their Flamestorm Gauntlets at the Poxwalkers. So that's 66 automatic hits. That's 18 hits. Wounding on 3s. So that's 14 wounds.
Yeah, disgustingly resilient. That's quite a few. So I need 6, so that will be 8 dead. I've taken away the ones closest to the aggressors, just in case they decide to try and charge.
I'll do the intercessors next. They're going to shoot all their guns at the cultists. We're just going to go for bolt rifles. 10 shots hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. Taking away that 2, we roll the 1. Into a 2. 8 hits. Wounding on 3s.
6.
6 dead cultists.
So that leaves only 4.
So I'll do the scouts next. These 2 at the back can only see Gangrus, so they'll shoot at him.
Yeah.
But he blocks line of sight to the cultist because he's too big.
Yeah. And even though the Poxwalkers are closer, he is their closest visible enemy, so they're allowed to shoot him.
Because this isn't match play.
This isn't match play.
These 2 will shoot at the Poxwalkers, and they are within rapid fire range of this Poxwalker, so they can shoot twice, even though the only person they can see is that one.
Yeah, who isn't? But again, that's the rule.
And the heavy bolter will use Hellfire shells on the Plague Marines.
Okay.
So I'll start with these 2 shooting at Gangrus. 2 shots hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. You're rolling that 1. 2 hits, wounding on 5s. Come on, scouts.
And 1 even with Storm of Fire.
Yeah.
So a 2+ and a 3+. We'll do the 3+ first. Past that, and 2+. Yeah, it passed. But still, a little bit scary for a moment.
I'll do the 2 scouts shooting at the Poxwalkers next.
Yeah.
So they've got 4 shots hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. Taking away that 2. That's 3 hits, wounding on 3s.
No.
1.
Storm of Fire, but who cares? Yeah, you killed another one. Take this one. Using a command point for Hellfire Shells, so you're down to 2.
So 1 roll to hit, hitting on 3 rolling 1s. He hit, so D3 mortal wounds. 3.
Disgustingly resilient. Ignored 1, so 2 die. I will lose the bolt gun here, and 1 on the other side of the box.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Captain's going to shoot. He can't see any Poxwalkers, so he'll shoot the Plague Marines. He has 2 shots from his auto bolt rifle, because we don't have the new codex. Hitting on 2s, rolling 1s. 2 hits, wounding on 5s. Nope.
Do you want to declare any charges?
No.
So that means we'll be on to the morale phase, where the cultists have to roll a d6 and add 4. No, and add 6, because they lost 6 people. That is 11. I'm actually going to re-roll that with a command point to try and keep some models on the board, because it would deny you first blood. So basically I need to roll a 3 or less. Yeah, 2. So they don't all run away.
2 of them are left.
Yeah. So that means that only 2 run away, and I will take the champion because his leadership would now be irrelevant. And so leaving 2 with autoguns over there. But that'll be it for Space Marines turn 1, so on to Death Guard turn 1. At the start of my movement phase, I can move the Servohauler, because I actually have one of those cultists within 3 inches of it, and the intercessors are not. So it can actually move up to 6 inches. So I'm going to go to there. And this is the rest of my movement. The 2 cultists have come over here to hide behind this objective. Blade Marines, some of them will stay on top of the box, but the the champion and the Blight Launcher man come around the corner here. Gangrus has moved his 4 inches towards the Space Marines, and the Poxwalkers have gone over here because now. And I will spend a command point for Cloud of Flies on the Blade Marines, so that drops me down to 1, and we'll be on to the shooting phase. We'll start with these 2 cultists because they only really have intercessors to shoot at. So we've got 4 shots hitting on 4s, 2 hits, wounding on 5s, 1. But you do have.
I think we all have cover from something.
I think so. I mean, it's not clear what you're supposed to do when there's multiple of the same kind of terrain nearby, but it seems fair to give them cover from this because they're all within an inch of an ammo box.
So it's a 2+ armor save. Yep.
And then we'll do the Plague Marines. They will shoot everything at the aggressors. The Storm Bolters on top of the box. We count them as being part of the box, not part of the Plague Marine unit, so they don't get inexorable advance, but there isn't really a ruling on whether that's how you're supposed to do this, so that's just the way we did it in the past. So one of them is in rapid fire range and one isn't, because it's 12 inches versus 18. That's the main difference. Anyway, but we'll start with the Blight Launchers. They have 4 shots on 3s. That's 3 hits. Wounding on 3s. They're all wounded.
5+ saves. Made 1. I will actually re-roll 1 just to try and save an aggressor. Nope.
So D3 damage. So the first one does 3 and the second one does 3. So that's 2 aggressors down. Leaving Sarge. Then we've got a plasma gun, which I won't supercharge. Good thing. You made 1 hit. Winning 1 on 3. Yep.
6+. Nope. Sarge takes a wound.
And then 6 shots from 2 Storm Bolters. Was 1 in rapid fire, 1 not on 3s. 4 hits and 5 to wound. 1.
3+. Yep.
He lives. That will be all of my shooting. So in the charge phase, the Poxwalkers will charge the scouts.
Only 2 scouts can see, and we're not in grenade range, so rapid firing. 4 shots hitting on 6s, you're rolling 1s. No, nothing.
And their charge range is 7. It's probably enough. That gets them over there into combat with the scouts. Gangrus will charge the aggressor. It's not just out yet. But it means it'll be an 8. Needing an 8. 12 will do.
There we go.
He'll go there. Well, we'll start with him. These are 4 attacks on 2s. 3 hits. 3s. We're rolling 1s.
6s.
Well, I made 1, but 3 damage. So
Aggressor goes down. First blood for the Death Guard.
that's a victory point for the Death Guard. Well, the white die there, and Gangrus has consolidated towards the objective. And then we've got the Poxwalkers. They have 6 attacks hitting on 5s, 2, and wounding on 5s as well. Nothing.
They will pile in. And we have 6 attacks. Hitting on 3s, you're rolling 1s. That was a 1, we roll that. 5 hits. Wounding on 3s. Yep. Usual scout there.
Oh, nothing died. No, there's no morale text to be made, so we'll be straight on to Space Marines turn 2. So the Space Marines did control this objective, so you've driven it over here.
Yep. So the scouts are just going to fall back from the Poxwalkers, and then the captain will advance. 3. Yep, so captain ends his movement on top of the cargo container. Intercessors are going to stay where they are.
So on to the shooting phase.
Yep. Scouts will shoot at the Poxwalkers. 1 heavy bolter man will throw a frag grenade because he's more likely to hit.
Yep.
So frag grenade, d6 shots. 2. Hitting on 4s, you're on 1s. 2 hits. Wounding on 4s. 1 wound.
And that's 1 dead Poxwalker so far.
And 8 bolt gun shots. Hitting on 4s, you're on 1s. That was a pretty good roll. 6 hits. Wounding on 3s. 4 wounds.
There are 2 left, and they're dead. So all the Poxwalkers go down.
The intercessors will go next. They'll shoot at the 2 remaining cultists.
Yeah, who will actually get cover because the Servohauler
Yep.
rules as described earlier.
10 shots hitting on 3s, you're rolling 1s. 8 hits. 9 hits, sorry. Wounding on 3s.
Well, yeah, I can get my 6+ save from this. When they roll 6s though, nah, they're dead. So they go down as well.
And then the captain will have to shoot at Gangrus because he's the closest model. 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. 2 hits, wounding on 5s. Oh, double 4 this time.
And I'm assuming there won't be any charges?
No.
So we'll be on to Death Guard, turn 2. Well, I don't have much to move, but in my movement phase I've moved the this Servohauler over here, and then the Plague Marines have come down the box, so they're all within 3 inches of it, so they can gain cover. And Gangrus has moved right down there to the bottom of the box. So in the shooting phase, the Plague Marines will shoot everything at the intercessors. Start with the Blight Launchers on 3s. Ooh, 1 hit. Wounding on a 3. Yeah, that's a wound.
4 plus arm save because we've got cover. New.
3 damage.
That's a dead intercessor. Think about that one.
Plasma gun not supercharging. Double 6 to hit, should be supercharged. And 1 wound.
5 plus. No.
And 4 bolt guns. 2 hits. On 4s. 1 wound.
2 plus.
No,
Can't even make them.
He
Intercessor
dies.
goes down.
And obviously Gangrus has no shooting, but he'll charge the scouts.
So this guy, these 2 can see, so heavy bolter man will shoot normally and the other guy will throw a crack grenade. Crack grenade on the 6. No. Heavy bolter. No.
He probably only needs about a 4. An 11 is definitely enough. Just come in like that. And then he will attack. That's double death of the False Emperor. Which gets those 6 hits. Rolling all 3s, rerolling 1s. Well, only 4 wounds, so 4 die because they don't get an armor save, so 1's left.
Sarge will live.
Consolidate into him for what it's worth.
Yep, Sarge gets to fight back. 2 attacks hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. Oh, hit. Wait, wounded. Yeah.
Well, I passed my save. Scout Sergeant technically has to take a morale test. He has to roll 6 twice with a reroll. No, it's fine. So that's the end of Death Guard turn 2. On to Space Marines turn 3.
I'm just going to concede.
Yeah, you have, 5 models left, and I have an unwounded Lord of Contagion.
Yep.
So, yeah, not really a particularly balanced game, I don't feel, but anyway, we'll talk about all that for you now. So that was the mission from issue 62 of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. Well, how do you think it went?
Well, it's pretty much exactly as how I expected it to go.
Yeah, same.
I mean, my initial plan was to try and get first blood, just to get a victory point over you. Then I'd only have to fight over 1 objective if I could keep my captain alive. But with the Lord, basically once the Lord of Contagion gets into melee again, it's just really nothing to do with it, especially after the aggressors are dead. I mean, I guess if you probably could whittle him down if you got all the aggressors to flame him, then charge him, and you had all the scouts and with Hellfire shells and all the intercessors and the captain shoot and charge, you possibly whittle him down in a whole turn, but it seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I don't really know how they expect you to deal with him. It's a bit like being back to the cargo deck in terms of, or at least back to the city map when it was hard to get rid of him, especially without Hellblasters or the Dreadnought.
And there isn't really enough space to outrun him either.
The fact that I start in the middle as well means that, and the fact that it's an objective game means that I can send him towards one of the objectives and then...
Yeah, effectively deny it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and you actually start in range of one of the objectives as well, which I didn't realise you could do. Isn't that obvious on the map?
No, indeed, no, and so I was able to move it away. Actually, I mean, on the subject of First Blood as well, perhaps I should have spent 2 command points to keep those cultists from running away, but I got away with using 1 to make them reroll their morale test, because a command point in exchange for a victory point, or denying your opponent a victory point, is always worth it, in my opinion. I think it's always a good trade.
Games like this, anyway, where there's so few victory points on offer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. If you got First Blood, then I had to kill your warlord and hold an objective or hold 2 objectives or whatever in order to win, if not draw. Because if you had an objective and had First Blood, then actually even with the warlord kill and the other objective, I could still only draw. So it was actually quite important in this game.
I suppose it's possible that focusing fire on the Plague Marines rather than your weaker units, try and get First Blood that way and maybe make them run away. But to get through 7 Plague Marines, it's probably harder than 12 Poxwalkers or 10 Cultists. So.
I mean, you did devastate my cheap, nasty units, but that's kind of what they were for, and then I still had the stuff to finish the job.
Yeah.
And once I've blown away your aggressors, well, you can't really deal with Plague Marines after that. I mean, the Intercessors are okay, but the Plague Marines can outshoot them. And I think I had about 60 more points or something like that as well, compared to you, so...
I mean, you could just take away 2 Plague Marines with bolt guns, and that would make the points finally closer.
Yeah, or the whole unit of cultists, although I suppose they did technically get me an objective.
Yeah, I think it's the same number of units rather than getting...
Yeah, I suppose... Yeah, in a way, there's not much to say about it. No new units, nothing much new in terms of tactics. I guess the gimmick could, in theory, have been interesting if the forces might have been a bit closer.
movable objectives is an interesting idea. It's just that in this mission, the objectives were completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it wasn't really it. Well, and being able to move them didn't actually seem like, for the Space Marines, really, the only objective you could actually reach in the first turn. I guess you could deploy the scouts by the other one, I guess. But I don't know if the scouts could actually deploy close enough to contest the tractor objective.
No, possibly not, no.
They probably won't carry it through into later missions, but it'd be neat to actually try using it like that.
They also have some slight variation on the cover rules. It's like we've got yet another slight variation on standing behind it, because the different things seem to have slightly different rules, none of which are exactly the same. I think if you were a new player to this, then having slightly different rules for cover for all the different terrain pieces might get confusing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that the rules for cover as given in the main rulebook are clear entirely, but with this, I don't really know how you're supposed to know which are the correct ones and which are stuff they made up for the magazine.
Yeah, especially on stuff like saying that the ammo boxes and oil drums on the spaceport map block line of sight like they did way back at the start of the cargo deck, but you can just use the optional rules which makes them act the same way as the ammo boxes and oil drums on the city part of the map, which we're going to do just to make it consistent, but I imagine that would be more confusion. Right. Speaking about the Servohaulers themselves, they're quite nice little models, and there's some nice bits in there for, again, if you like dire armors, a bit like the objectives we got in the last issue.
Yeah, the little toolbox
and the fire extinguisher, and even the Servohaulers themselves.
They're quite fitting for sort of imperial aesthetic. It's got these sort of, they almost look like they're sort of steam powered or like First World War era things, yet they're supposed to be in the far future, so I quite like the look of them. Well, anyway, there's not a great deal more for us to say. I don't think there's anything particularly new in this mission, so if you like this video, then please leave a like and let us know what you have for your comments. Subscribe for more. We've now caught up to the weekly issues, so there'll be some other content available, first of which came out just a few days ago, if you're watching these at the time. Otherwise, if you've been playing these missions yourselves, let us know how this one went, what your thoughts are. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.